Hello. So, I've been browsing the Thaumcraft subreddit a lot lately, as well as the Thaumcraft forum thread, and I've been seeing a lot of people asking for lossless recipes for the Crucible. And so I figured I'd put something together, and I lined up all the recipes here that you can use a Crucible to make. And surprisingly, a lot of them are fairly simple to do and pretty straightforward, although we will be juggling with quite a few aspects in some of the more complicated recipes. So, well, let's just jump right in. So, Nitor. The thing to note about Nitor is it's 3, 3, and 3. 3 Lux, 3 Ignis, 3 Potentia. But you're never going to find an item other than Crystallized Essentia that has exactly that amount on it. So you're going to have to do some math, and if you've learned anything about least common multiples, you probably know what the least common multiple between these two to create an even numbered output that has no remainder left. Well, that would be 6. 3 times 2, 3 times 2, and 6 times 1. And just dump in your 2 pieces of glowstone, and you're good. Nitor. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Next, with Alimentum, we'll have to make this in batches of 4. Again, least common multiple. Potentia is really readily available on Redstone. I use that. Gunpowder is a little problematic. If you've gone through the Thaumonomicon, most likely you have, especially if you are doing Alimentum for the first time, you probably haven't unlocked this, but most likely you have. And that's gunpowder duplication, which means if you're not careful, you'll just duplicate your gunpowder. Best thing to do is to drop it in one at a time, alternating between coal so that you don't spill over, or worse, dump a piece of coal into your crucible and not have a planned way of getting it out. And that's really kind of the key to all these, is planning, knowing ahead of time what you're going to dump and when. Because otherwise you run the risk of creating flux. Now, speaking of flux, this one often gives people trouble. Balance shards. I find that these 4, as the catalyst, they're the best to use simply because they don't have any excess. These items give you all 5 required aspects along with the catalyst to make your balance shard. You can also dump them in mass. Be careful with the gunpowder recipe. Again, you'll just duplicate it. And it becomes really easy to make balance shards once you've committed these to memory. Now, you're probably noticing that 2 are missing. It's because they're up here, just because it was too crowded in that chest. Now, unfortunately, we run into a problem that we'll run into again. There's no good source of Ordo. Ordo, the best source I found was these these Ordo shards. But then that leaves you with 2 pieces of vitreous left in your crucible. There's only one recipe that uses vitreous, and that's prismarine. So get used to dumping in excess glass or bottles of water or another water shard and torches to make more prismarine to get the crucible completely evened and leveled out. Of course, that requires you having gotten it, and that's not easy. You're going to have to tackle an ocean monument. Yeah. But on the bright side, something like thaumium is super easy to do. So just dropping in 2 pieces of chiseled stone brick and an iron ingot, there you go. Alchemical brass, again, really simple. A warded jar, piece of redstone, and 2 iron ingots later, and you've got 2 pieces of alchemical brass. For nugget duplication, it's slightly more complicated, but not too much more. You need 2 pieces of metallum, 1 piece of vidium. Now this, unfortunately, this is the simplest one to use, the taintwood log. It's easy to grow. You need a taint biome nearby. Most people can probably swing that, no problem. And then you have herba left over. Simply just throw in a piece of dirt and soak that herba right up. Again, same thing here. You can use sugar or a gold coin. I think you can smelt gold coins into nuggets. I don't remember. I'll figure that out later. It's not important. Now with native clusters, we're back at the same issue that we used to have. how the heck do we get rid of this Terra? We'll have excess Terra left over, I do believe. Yeah, see, you need Metallum and Ordo, but no Terra. So 4 pieces of Terra left over. What do we do with that? Well, we'll see in a minute. There are a lot of Terra recipes that we can chain after this. And the same thing goes for the other 2 clusters. And I'll go over what those other recipes are for Terra in a minute. Now, tallow is really easy to make. You just drop in your nether brick, get yourself rotten flesh. You can also use gunpowder. Well, actually, no, that's right. You can't, because if you've unlocked entropic processing, you're just going to make leather. And, well, that may not be what you want to make. I don't know. But with this recipe, you use 4 of each of these, and that gives you excess Perditio. Well, you can then put that either into making dirt into grass, or you can add aqua to make clay to soak up the excess Terra. No, wait, no, sorry, not dirt into grass. What am I thinking? Yeah, you can turn this into clay using a warded jar to soak up this excess Terra. You might want to use the clay recipe for a lot of these. Slime is really easy to duplicate, just a warded jar and a melon. Pretty simple. Any source of Victus, really. There are a few of them down the line that we can use. Glowstone, really easy. Any dye will do. Torches, you can ink sacks, again, 2 warded jars, or 2 points of aqua, warded jar, 2 pieces of whatever dye. I've pretty well already hit prismarine crystals. You can make them either this way or this way, and you'll get 2 out of that recipe. Prismarine requires Terra, 1 point of Terra and 2 points of aqua. Again, other recipes use Terra, so you can run over here and do that. If you don't have a recipe lined up, you can just use dirt to soak up that herba, get yourself some grass out of the process. Again, nothing comes with just Perditio, but you can use Perditio from other things to easily get the Perditio that you need to process those recipes. I find you can just turn straight gunpowder into leather using the rotten flesh recipe. That's really good. I don't find myself using this one very much. You just need a piece of Perditio lined up, throw in an oak leaf, and then dirt. There you go. Pretty straightforward. Warded jar, stone, gets you your Terra and your aqua, 2 pieces of dirt, clay. Again, pretty straightforward. Now, cobwebs are a little more annoying. We don't have a good source of vinculum that's just vinculum. So we're kind of having to force ourselves to rely on amber. Vitreous, I went over what to do with vitreous. Other than that, unless you can use an Essentia Crystallizer, which a lot of people kind of want to stray away from, it uses the aura, you know. I get it. You have options. For cobblestone, to be mossy cobblestone, you need 2 points of herba. Not that hard. Herba, again, we use herba a fair bit with other things. So, yeah, pretty straightforward. Lava, I find very useful. Now, with this, you can either use just straight nether brick and stone, and that's lava. Or, if you don't have netherrack around, which I'm playing a map currently that doesn't, then this is actually a really good source of ignis, because, well, I mean, it's readily available, it's available in mass quantities, stone is easy to get, that gives you a lot of excess Perditio, steamroll that into an entropic processing recipe, and you're pretty well set. This recipe here for making grass will be our bread and butter for a lot of other recipes. It's just sort of like a sponge, it just soaks up whatever else you need. Oh, and then we have the bath salts. This is a problem simply because we don't have a good source of Ordo. So I suggest tossing these items in. Again, you're going to have to do it in multiples that equal, that have no excess. So 12 is the number that we're looking for. But then that leaves 12 points of Terra left over. And you can do what you want with that. You pretty well know. And that brings us to the sanitizing soap. This one is a real pain to do. We run into the same problem with Alienus that we did with Perditio and Ordo. There's just no good way to get lots and lots of Alienus. These are all interchangeable. But again, excess Terra, we could probably turn that into clay. We could probably, I don't know, whatever other recipe you care to. Just think of something. For the Ether Bloom, it's actually pretty straightforward. You just need some taint logs and melon and a torch, and you've got an Ether Bloom. You really can't ask for a simpler recipe. And then we have a taint shard. Now, you can't get this until you've scanned taint shards, but it allows you to produce more taint shards. So we'll use taintwood logs, soak up the excess herba, however you choose. You have your choice of catalyst. You need 4 points of Perditio on top of this. I'll leave you to decide where to get that Perditio. Too many choices for that, really. And that pretty well takes care of this. Jars or bottles of taint are a little more complicated. We have our 8 Vitium on this, and our 8 Aqua on this. But again, leftover herba, my bad. So just soak that up. It's not too bad. You're going to have to be quick about it. You don't want any aspects to degrade. But this is where we start to get really, really strung over. You can use bones as a source of mortis. And that leaves you with points of herba, or of Victus left over. You can quickly... Yeah, and then also you've got gunpowder for Perditio. Unless you already have a recipe lined up that has a lot of Perditio as a byproduct, you're probably going to be using gunpowder because it's just readily available. And then you're going to want to soak up the Ignis again with rotten flesh quickly to prevent you from duplicating gunpowder, which will just slow you down. So I recommend throwing in the bone first, the torch, and the taintwood log, and then quickly soaking that up with a shimmer leaf to make your ethereal bloom. And then quickly dumping in your vitreous, and then quickly doing your gunpowder so that you can get rid of this Ignis and make your bucket of liquid death. That's not an easy prospect, but I imagine if you're quick enough, you could probably do it. Then this leads to void seeds. Void seeds are another problem because we have no good source of tenebrae. Same with Alienus. We're just kind of stuck all the way around. At least Vacuos comes in a pretty handy form. Do with what you will. With this excess Terra, again, good luck. It shouldn't be too bad, but at the same time, it's a little annoying. Void seeds to be turned into void metal, that's actually surprisingly easy. We just need to soak up this excess herba and throw in whatever combination of metallum you care to make your void metal. Pretty simple. And then we get to Gollum Seals. Gollum Seals can be a bit of a pain. These items have the required aspects on them. I don't really need to explain them any more than that. Yeah, it pretty well goes. Just refer back to the recipe. These are pretty simple. Whoops. It doesn't really get problematic and complicated until we get to the Provision Seal. And the Provision Seal was added for Thaumcraft 5. I won't go over what it does. It's not really that important. What is important is that it is a pain because it requires native copper. And native copper, unfortunately, if you don't have some form of copper installed already, you're probably not going to have access to this. I'm just playing Thaumcraft 5 and nothing else. So that does it for me. I'm going to have to use some other form of permutatio. The amount of things with permutatio on them are really, really, really small. Same for Spiritus. You just don't have a lot of options. And, yeah. You could use native copper, but native copper comes with a bunch of other aspects that you then have to get out of the crucible some way. And it just becomes too much of a hassle. So just be aware. This way, what we're doing is you throw in your Desidarium, you throw in your Permutatio, that's all you need is just Desidarium and Permutatio, so you can quickly throw in your Advanced Control Seal and get out your Provision Seal. But again, you're going to have leftover stuff in it. So you've got an Ordo and you've got a Terra, so you can easily soak that up with an Iron Ingot to make a Thaumium Ingot. And then you've got your Metallum. You're going to have to probably quickly duplicate whatever nugget you care to duplicate, and then that will use Taintwood Logs, soak up the Yerba with the dirt, and yeah, you pretty well get the idea. Thankfully, the rest of them are kind of simple from here on. This is pretty easy. Census and Herba. Yeah. This one's a little more annoying. You need a Versio, simple thing to get. You also need Premunio, and Premunio is not an easy aspect to find. Don't use any sort of animal byproduct. No leather, no pouches, no baubles that have leather in them. None of that. That's because they have Bestia on them, and if you put Bestia into your Crucible, you're not getting it out. No recipe uses Bestia. So once it's in there, it's in there. So be aware. With this, we've got a handy source of Premunio, as well as Ignis, which can be gotten out with rotten flesh to make tallow, and Aqua. And Aqua and Potentia combined, if you balance out the Aqua, you can just throw in iron to get alchemical brass. I mean, who doesn't need alchemical brass? And, yeah, you just do this typical Cognitio Census mixture to make the advanced version. And that's pretty well all the major recipes. I'm pretty sure that's everything. I've hit them all. Just be careful. You're going to have to be swapping things around. Be mindful of what you got in the Crucible. Be quick, because aspects will degrade randomly. And plan ahead of time. That's really all it boils down to, is just planning. Other than that, good luck. And thanks for watching.